What's up, everyone? Today we're going to be doing something really neat. We're going to see a lost art where someone is going to be sitting down and making panels for our pickup truck by hand. And that someone is Ray. He's got Wheelwright Restorations, and he's got quite the operation going on in here. And he'll walk us around some of his equipment.
Well, this is some standard machine shop items here. This is an older Bridgeport. We have a lathe. And we have a Pullmax. This is one of our primary tools here, the Pullmax machine. You can do a wide different variety of things with the Pullmax. Right now it's set up for joggling some of the panels that we're going to make today. It puts the stair state shape in. Here's different dies. We have, this is a flanging die. It has a 90-degree top die and a guide right here, so you could flange irregular shaped objects. You could make circles and have a flange and different things. These are dies for the 4146, I think 3946 area around the windshield. And we have shrinking dies, which we'll go into a little bit more in a moment. What these do is put a pucker in the metal. I usually didn't think you could shrink metal with a hammer, but you can. This puts a pucker up into it and then knocks it back down and ends up making the metal thicker. So we'll come back to this. We've got our MIG welder, we've got a TIG welder, glass cabinet, and we have jump shears and throatless shears. This is an English wheel. This is a great machine. It does a great final planishing. One gentleman, and I was learned, told me that the human being is 1/16 of a horsepower. So if you can do any kind of sheet metal work and you can put a motor behind you, you'll get more done. Although I have seen incredible craftsmen work just off the English wheel and make some fantastic panels. We got a bandsaw. We have a rotary screw air compressor because I had a reciprocating one over here, but it was pretty loud, and the rotary screw is great. It's like a washing machine running. Now this right here is usually the crowning jewel in any sheet metal fabrication shop. This is a power hammer. And this machine started off as a giant Pullmax type machine. Let me get some pictures. This is what this machine looked like when we bought it. It was a Pullmax Major.
Looks like you did quite a bit of modifications to it.
Yeah, we did. You can see a lot of them here. My kid's sitting on there. We recut the throat, added this, and then we took off the original Pullmax head and mounted the power hammer pieces to it. So this works by, this is a Kevlar strap. This is a leaf spring. These are the spring shackles. And this actually, with this design, throws the hammer down. So it's not directly connected, it's throwing the hammer down onto the dies. With this machine, what we do is you take, with any kind of fabrication and shape, you want to take a radius gauge. Let me get one of those. You take a radius gauge and you look for what radius we want to replicate. And we could do this on this bicycle over here. That's a 2-inch radius. So if we wanted to replicate this portion, we would put a 2-inch radius die in this. And we'll get back to this later, but I'll give you a little demo of what it looks like running.
A lot faster than I was expecting.
Ha! Yeah.
Yeah, very loud.
Yeah, this puts a great deal of shape into a panel very quickly. Again, we got a couple horsepower working for us, and this will put a lot of shape in. Now, one thing I want you guys that don't have some of these machines, there's a lot that you can do. without the machinery. And that's some of the things I want to touch on you, Brian. So these, you know, you don't have a lot of this stuff. There's still a lot you can do. Here's, if you don't have we have a box and pan brake over there. But if you don't have the box and pan brake, here's an example of a homemade tool. I'm using it now for layout purposes, but it's just a piece of angle iron that has this portion cut out and it's bent around a circle. And you can make a lot of shapes with this, some homemade tools. When I started out, I had a piece of railroad track welded to some angle iron that, you know, was forming metal over that. One thing I do really recommend the home guy, the small shop guys, these shrinkers, these edge shrinkers, really will enhance your capability to do a lot of stuff. I'll give you a demo. This is a piece of 19 gauge sheet metal. This is about 39 thousandths thick. And what your shrinker here will do is it will take and bring the metal together. And by shrinking this edge, we're able to make a compound curve. And just the opposite is true of the stretcher. This is a metal thinner, and the other one is a metal thickener. It's one way to think about it. And there you go, a shape. And these can be very handy when you're trying to tweak in some reproduction parts that just don't quite fit right. Another shrinker. These are fairly inexpensive. You can get these. I think even your cheaper Chinese ones, if you're doing it just to be sell them, you know, using them a lot. There's a lot on YouTube about how to tune them up. But these are really a great tool for the guy in the small shop. This is a little bit above that. This is a kick shrinker. We're doing the same thing, but we have more depth. We can get a bigger piece in, and we step on it using your foot instead of your hands, and it basically does the same thing as the hand operated one. Now, some of you guys are going to have to deal with how do you make this oddball shape. Well, I'm going to show you some of the things that we use to make some parts. We had a job to make this piece. It's a latch cover for suburban panel trucks, 49 to 55. So, got this arch here. Now what we did is we made a mold. This is Bondo. This is Bondo. You make this out of Bondo. Now the way we did it is these two holes went in first, and they were dimpled for the countersink. Then when you had that, the paste was screwed into our Bondo die. This edge was folded over with lightly tapped. And we have a very small ball peen hammer we use to knock these in. And then these are set into the Bondo. And what these do is they locate these holes for you. And yeah, if you can make, of course we wouldn't be making a lot with the Bondo die. They are good for, they can get you through a job like this. And we do use them occasionally. The other thing we do quite a bit is hammer form. You know, this actually is a hammer form also. This is 4146. No, yeah, 4146. This goes below the grill. Bumper brackets come through here. It's in a very vulnerable area below the grill, and often these are pretty hard to get. I don't have any of them finished or partly finished, but we use this hammer form. We have a blank piece of sheet metal cut out to shape, and we take the blank and put this radius here, like this, on the English wheel, so it sits flat. And then it goes in the vise, gets clamped up, and then we use a hammer to fold over onto our edges. We cut this out about 1/4 of an inch smaller than this, and using hammers and round pieces of metal and bars, we knock that shape in. And then we have a right and a left, we have a jig, we put them on, and then we weld them together. This is a hammer form. This is a fairly complicated hammer form. Let's see, this is a simpler hammer form. This will end up making one of these. An advanced design fender patch panel. The running board mounts here, and it gets grit, gets abraded, breaks the paint, and ends up rusting through. And it also has an L-shaped stiffener on the inside, and that also helps this to be a pretty common rusted area on the advanced design trucks. So, with these, you can make whatever shape you need to make. You can make it out of hardwood. This is phenolic. It's held up really well. Made quite a few of them. So we have two dies. These are similar. Sometimes they won't be. Sometimes one of them will be slightly larger, just a little bit taller, maybe just simply by the thickness of the metal. What we do, we're gonna knock it over like this. So now we have this shape. We have this lettuce on the end. What we can do with this is we're going to flatten it back out. Now it's going to want to go like this, and we would put it into the shrinker. We would shrink this so it's flat. We would also use the shrinker along this edge here, and we have bucks that we set the part in to get that right. We have that in, then we put this on the power hammer, we go get the crown in, and then we use the planishing hammer. But this is a great simple hammer form that you can use at home and help you get by with some of those parts. Now, as far as shrinking goes, there's another way I like to show you. This is 19 gauge again. Pinprick. What you can do with these is you take and put a tuck in. This is just a pair of needle nose pliers that ended up getting sacrificed to make this, but you put a tuck in your panel like this. And what you're doing is you're doing kind of the same thing that the shrinking guys here do. You're putting this tuck in. And then it's called stack shrinking. You hammer this down, and what this will do is make the metal thicker, also called shrinking the metal. So we just put the tuck in wherever you want to do some shrinkage. And then put it on a nice hard surface. The more you hit it, the more you'll lose your shrink. What that has, it's difficult to see on this, but this has made this metal here thicker. Nice way, simple tool, and it'll help you get through, help you shrink the metal a bit.
Definitely something you could just make at home.
Oh, easy. You basically, with this and the hammer, you're doing what these do. However, these pieces can go in deep to shrink. I got an example over here of another part we made. These go below the grill. And they're in a vulnerable spot to get damaged. And these are, this one's the start to be one of the, I don't remember which one, I think the bigger one. But this is going to go in here. And what we do is we put it on this, we use it as a buck, we roll it around, and where we're hitting, we need to go and take, put a little more stretch, or put a little more shrink until this fits nicely. Then we'll put the rest of the shape in, and put them in another jig and weld them together.
Now, if I remember correctly, you were saying over the phone, something like this, a customer can send a piece, and
Right.
you'd be able to recreate it.
Mostly, well, our methods work best with older vehicles. A lot of the other vehicles, the later vehicles, have a lot of different taper where a bead is changing in depth, and that's hard to replicate. Mostly what we do is usually in the 50s and earlier. Some of the newer sheet metal is difficult to replicate using our methods. So that's some hammer forming. And now we can go back onto the Pullmax here. I want to show you, Brian, how it starts and how it's done. These are called joggling tools. Bring it up more.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And we'll do that until we have a depth like this. Now, one thing with these panels is they have a crown here. And so how do we get that in? Well, we can use our guide, and we can raise the guide so that it's slightly higher than the surface here. So it's being supported on each side and being pushed down in the middle. And that will bend up, that will put the crown this way in the panel. And then after we do that, we use the planishing hammer here, we sharpen this edge, and we put a little bit of shape into it. We have two different kinds of guides on this, fences rather. There are two different kinds of fences we use. This is a straight fence, and then this one is a contour fence. A lot of the pieces we have are regular shaped, and we guide the irregular shaped panels on the on that fence there. An example of that would be a part made on the Pullmax. Would be this piece. This is for 66 pickup trucks. It goes on in the back of the cab, in the very back bottom. This piece goes there. Now this piece was made on the Pullmax with the flanging tool here, and again we have that guide in it, and so we put this flange on first. This was flanged, again running off the contour guide, and then when this flange was in, we used a different tool on the Pullmax, and we were able to put this shape here in with the bottom die,
And it uses that as the reference.
This edge that we flanged became our guide. We got the flange where we wanted, and so this panel's flanged, but it doesn't have this shape in yet. We have the flange. So then these are set up. And again, the nice thing about the Pullmax is this tooling is not really that hard to make. I think it's a lot easier to make Pullmax tooling than it is to make tooling for like a bead roller and that sort of thing. So these guys put that shape in on the Pullmax. This flanging tool does 7/16 or the metric equivalent. This stuff's all, the Pullmax machines are made in Sweden. So there's one thing we can do to get a little bit more on this. There's an adjustment over here for the in and out, and we back it all the way off, so this is going all the way back. And then this tool here, you see it's not, the center is off center, it's out this way. So it's going to give us a little larger flange than we would have initially got with this tool. Now, get on the Brian tail for the truck he's building. We have patterns we use to lay this line out. We've already lined it up and cut this to shape. If we weren't using a tool that already had this built into it, we would be on a contour fence. Well, we've got this one set up. So we're going to push the panel in on the guide and bring it up and get, that will go up a little bit more. If you don't keep this tight, what happens is it tends to unscrew itself. Too tight, you can't move. That's the start. Speed you feed it through plays a role. If you go too fast, you can see it looks kind of choppy. Now on the, this is the piece we're using as a pattern. This one is from a 39 to 40, which is identical to the 41-46 with the exception of the 39-40 have this boss welded onto it. Well, actually pressed in originally. We replicate these by having a piece of metal the same thickness as this. We weld it on, we contour grind it, and that's how we do the 39-40 pieces. Notice this is not, some of these are not quite 90, so we don't always go fully 90 on this. We've looked at different ones and we go close to 90 but not quite 90. Okay, when we have, like we saw with that panel, when we do a outside edge that goes like this, we end up having it goes into a kind of a smiley face, depending on how you're looking at it. We have a dip like that. We have a dip in this, so we have to correct it. Now let's look at what it should be with a straight edge. We can see that it does have some crown, some shape. Mostly kind of flat though, so we have to be at least flat. So we'll use our edge shrinker. Very lightly, doesn't take much to put some shape in with this. You kind of want to hold it where it wants to go instead of holding it out of position. Then if you hold it out of position, the jaws will put it in position and you'll have marks on the piece. We're going to put our straight edge on there. Yeah, we're pretty flat. A little bit in the back here. So now we're at this point with this pen. Want to try it, Brian?
Sure, absolutely.
Just go do it on this, same thing.
Yep.
You can see the much more of the smiley face. And one thing with these you don't want to do is you don't want to have the jaws come down onto themselves without anything in, because basically these are like 4 separate file pieces, almost like a file. And what they can do, if you look in here, you can see as it comes down, it's going to go and it's going to draw together.
Oh, okay. Yep.
It's going to squeeze together. I don't want to squeeze them, but these are in a V shape like this, and the dies will go down into that V and come together. With the stretcher, it's the same. However, if I can slip in a piece of paper. You see with this, jaws are coming and they're pulling it apart. And you can see them spreading apart. And that's going to grab the metal, pull it, stretch it. But if you come down on these, you'll dull them in short order on metal.
Yeah, you can actually see the little teeth. Oh, well, you guys can see with the GoPro, but the little tiny teeth going all across there.
Yeah, so Brian, you're gonna do those. Remember, it doesn't take too much force. You're better off putting the less in and go back and doing it more times than you are trying to go get it out because you put too much in.
Okay. So start here.
Yeah, you can start wherever you'd like. You can start on edge. You can start in the middle and work your way out. I don't think I have a preference how I do it.
Oh yeah, less is more on this. That's for sure. You can feel it moving the.
Let's take a look and see where you're at and what you have done. Yep, perfect. And you're getting it out. I use this now. You can see where it has the greatest amount.
Yeah.
You've done a nice job here. And let's check here. It seems that most of it now is here. One thing I do with this is I'll put it in and I'll very kind of bounce it.
Okay.
Multiple bounces. I don't really I'm more of bouncing it on there.
As I put very little weight into it.
Well, you did a good job, so I can't criticize you. You did a great job.
You can actually see it once I got towards the center.
Oh yeah, pull it right in.
Oh, look at that.
Pretty flat.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Not bad. That's the first time. This is the first time you used one of those, Brian?
Yeah.
That's it.
That's cool.
Nice job. Now you can go on to the more costly piece. You can't really. You want to do this one too?
No.
All right. I'm gonna move your.
Yeah, I'll get that right out of the way.
All right, I'm gonna.
I don't have that much confidence.
Well, you should, because you did a nice job on it. It came out. It meets our.
The smell
standard.
test?
Yeah. I love I call it the stink. Yeah, the stink test. You stand back and actually look at it and see, does it pass the stink test? I move around a lot on these and just really kind of lightly. Again, we're looking for it to be kind of flat, a little bit of life to it. And we'll have another look at it. And it looks pretty good. Now, running it onto the, we have a slight groove here. You see it, Brian? You can feel it.
Oh, yep. You can see it too.
Yeah, you really, it's not desirable. Yeah, this is an air planishing hammer. A little history of the air planishing hammers. These were used in auto body shops almost since the beginning of the automobile. They had different ones, like an English wheel that would roll it. They had lots of different types of them. Some of the primary survivors, the ones that really worked well, that are quite desirable now, are the Chicago pneumatic, Milwaukee, Thor. This is a water velite. The nice thing about the water velite, it's a 20,000 blows a minute. It's really, really fast. It's a little bit lighter too, so you have a little bit more control. If you didn't have a power hammer, maybe you consider a Chicago pneumatic. That hits a lot harder, a little slower, and you put the shape in quicker. We're going to take this groove out. Turn the air on first. So we have the die we want in there. We have a larger top die. There are different top dies, smaller ones, reverse curve ones. All depends on what you're doing. The larger one goes over the edge and works well for an operation like this. Now you feel it? Perhaps ever so slightly, but it's pretty well gone. Now let me show you, Brian, why these things work so well in the auto body shop. Clean it up a little. Let's say you got a real bad hailstorm. That's a pretty bad hail. So, we're going to use our radius gauge. We're going to see before this got messed up. I think it should have been a 6-inch radius. We'll go to our machining. Let's put a 6-inch radius. And now the radius wants to be whatever we want to repair or replicate. You always want to use the dolly or any tool. You always want to use the size that is closest to what you want to use. You put a smaller one in, you get more shape faster, but you're the one that's as close as match as possible will give you the best result. Pretty much gone.
Yep. That was incredible.
No, it's pretty good. I don't think you really have to do much.
That's incredible.
You want to try it? All right, Brian, I don't know about you, but we get some pretty severe hail damage around here. Say you got some hail damage.
It's like Oklahoma hail.
Yeah. Okay, here you got your old school auto body tool. These are mostly held by hand on the vehicle itself. And here are some of the frames up there. But you're gonna start kind of in the middle here, and then you're gonna work your way up. Now we'll put a little bit of oil on. It makes it easier to go through the machine. And when you're using an English wheel or something, the tracking is important. You want to get like overlapping blows. And so, got some pretty good damage there.
That's a lot of damage.
I don't know. We can fix it. Let's try to fix it. You got a foot pedal. Put that where you're comfortable at. Maybe a little closer.
I'm not as tall as you.
Okay. Wherever you can just make yourself comfortable.
You started with it in it?
Yep. You can start it and feed it in.
Okay.
Pretty well done.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Now, let's say you wanted to make another rod, you wanted to raise this over here. I'll show you on the power hammer. Okay, now, if we wanted to make another, let's say this was damaged, this piece, we wanted to make another one similar to that. We go to the power hammer. See how that brought that up. Okay, let's have a little bit of fun with this. So we put the shape in with the air hammer and the power hammer. That was this shape was done primarily by stretching and pushing it over a form. There's also a way you can form a piece. The other way would be to shrink the metal. And now we're shrinking, where our goal is to form some type of a hemispherical type shape. So we're going to go in here and put some shrinks in it. And kind of shrink the outside. And we can run that through the air hammer or the power hammer, and that will smooth this out. A lot slower method. You could take one of the ways they used to do it would be to take a stump, hollow out a stump, and use a forming hammer. Use a hammer like this on a stump, a sandbag, a shop bag, whatever you would. You could put this shape in here also by hand without any fancy machinery. And you can also do the same thing that we did with the shrinker by using this tuck tool. You're going to go ahead and put a pucker in it. The sharper you can make it, the better it will work. And then we just go over to our stake plate or anvil or whatnot and knock that back down, and that's going to make the metal thicker right there in that area. This is about the same shape as maybe a fender patch panel, or it's just a dome shape now. But we also use the air hammer, we put this shape in with the power hammer, and then we smooth it out, give it a nice finish with the planishing hammer. Now, the best planish, I think, comes from the English wheel.
I know TV's always made these things look very dangerous.
The English wheels?
Yeah.
Probably the safest machine in the shop.
They're always like, oh, you're gonna get your hands sucked into it.
All right, well, in this case, this depends on what you have for your English wheel, how much spring is in the frame. I usually like to bring it until they just contact. I give it a little spin, put the piece in, it'll grab it. And then this is where tracking is important, because you want to get a nice even overlap. Now what I'm doing, I'm going to exaggerate. I'm going like this. But I'm going to do it in a way that you really don't see me doing it. It doesn't take very much at all to put this amount of shape to get the, and this does a really nice job of putting in a nice final smoothness. And you can also control the bend with it, is how now if I take and push this in and I'm pulling downwards, I'll put more shape in this way. I got another part that shows that pretty well. Now this piece goes to suburban panel trucks of the advanced design, late 47 up to the first part, 1955. This bead here is at the fender opening. We put that on with a tool on the Pullmax, and it's also shrunk along this edge. So you can shrink this edge, but you also need to get this bend in. And we do that bend by putting it on the English wheel and pulling it down faster. Basically, you put it and you're pulling it downwards. And this shape here is all put in with a flat bottom guide on the English wheel. So we have a piece now. We're going to lay it out again. This is where the bend is going to be. It's going to bend there. Now I don't have a really tall pattern, so I have to move this up to make these taller panels. Kind of line these up and project that line there upwards. Now we have that. Scribe the line deep enough, a lot of times the divider will just ride right in that scribe line. see on this part on the panel, to add this, there's multiple bends going on here. Sometimes when you do a panel like this, you have to ask yourself, can we make it without this? What do most of the guys buying these need? Generally, you don't need this area. I have made it before, but it's pretty complicated, and that would really kind of add to the expense of a panel. So to keep these a little simpler to make, keep the cost down, we do just this. And then here you can use our bend. You can install the panel however you want. If you need more, we could add some of the other stuff. But on the inside here, it gives you a pretty good indication of how they rust. They go up like that.
Right. That's very similar to how mine is.
Yep. So I think it's kind of a shame if you're gonna have a standard panel. This is a standard panel for us. I'd hate to put all that work into it and have most of them wind up on the shop floor someplace.
Right.
You know, you're paying for it. So that's why this is a. We're going to cut this. We're going to use the same similar tool that we did this with. We're going to change the top tool and make a couple of adjustments. But first, we have to cut this portion out. So you see a difference, Brian, in what kind of curve this is this way compared to this.
Right.
This one we're going to have to end up stretching rather than shrink. You'll see
Right.
see that in a minute. These are throatless shears. Interesting story on these throatless shears. Because I was in Germany in the Army for a while, and these shears were found on the side of a railroad track. And actually, the data tag says property U.S. Army Air Forces. So these were somewhere in Germany, discarded along a railroad track. They had probably about 1/8 of an inch of paint on them. I didn't find them. Guy found, knew I was kind of interested in that sort of thing, so I did some welding work on the guy's Camaro in trade for these.
That's really cool.
Yeah, kind of interesting story. But now what we need to do is kind of blend some of the stuff out here so it passed the smell test. We'll do that with one thing I like to do when I'm laying out holes in sheet metal is I like to have a piece of wood. I like to use the end grain. This is a little piece of oak. You can use any kind of wood, pine, whatever. And the nice thing about laying out holes on the end grain is you can really get it in there nice. Just practically put a hole in it. That's a pretty good dimple that's not going to come out on us. So we have a 3/4 inch hole here now. Here are some of the original pieces for a 4146. This is off a military one. That doesn't quite fit. Anyway, here's a 4146 cowl panel, and this is the inner piece. They go like this. That's where the inner one goes. Kind of interesting to see the rust matching up on it.
Yeah.
You know. I don't know if you can see the size of the hole. You can see a little bit of the original one. It's quite a bit bigger than the 3/4 inch hole that we put in. So these are green lead. These are used primarily by electricians. I'm sure you know what use these knockout punches.
Oh yeah.
We're going to use a knockout punch. And there's other ways around it. You know, you can put the biggest hole you get in. You can take a die grinder and open the hole up. Or there's different ways to go about it. If we're making a lot of them, you know, we like the knockout punches. Leave us a little bit of like a fish hook here, so we go ahead and cut that off. Now we'll go over to the sheet metal brake. Now this is called a box and pan brake, or a leaf brake, because if you make a box, you need to have the corners like this, 90 degrees depending on the box, but this allows you to take out some of the leaves. You can make a box out of it. They're nice if you can go with a leaf brake versus a regular brake, but you can always go with a piece of angle iron bent onto itself.
Like you were showing earlier.
Yeah, you know, not everybody has this stuff, and if the most fun you get out of a project is the most you can do. You can say, I did it, I made it, you know. And I like to encourage people I like to show them the other ways of doing things too. So we have this at this point now. Now we're going to take these pliers, pretty old ones. I'm going to go in on the line and do this bend by hand. Come up. You want about the same angle as the original one down. Have a look here, not quite 90. Well, we have that bend in. And I'm going to just bend this edge in. And then if we have a little bit of overlap, we can go ahead and use the shears, we use the bandsaw. And the overlap I'm talking about is that right there. Yep. We want to butt it up. So we'll take and snip that out.
And that's now in orbit.
I know that launched quite well. I'm thinking, wow, I can feel it whiz by my chin. But I'm a strong advocate for wearing safety glasses, respiratory protection when you're grinding, moving paint. You gotta work. We're gonna work safe. It's easy to you get hurt out in the industry with a lot of something. You know, people aren't looking out for you quite the way you are. If you're a young person, you need to be your own safety advocate.
You only get one set.
Absolutely. Now the size of the flange is quite a bit smaller than I'm talking about this flange right here. Now the minimum our tool here can do is 7/16. That looks more like a 5/16. So this flange is going to end up being a little bit longer. I leave it like that, and if the guy wants to trim it, he can trim it. Most likely that part may not even be used.
But they could always specify if they need more.
Yeah, we make a lot of parts to customer specs. We do a lot of stuff too that we likely won't make ever again either. So, and that's the nice thing about it. If somebody calls me, they're working on a project, we can tailor make the part to whatever really you need. But these are a part that we also sell to some of the parts dealers, Classic Parts of America, Jim Carter's Truck Parts. We supply them with these, so we make it as a standard panel. Same way with that Suburban curved piece. You know, it starts out with a 12-inch blank. It's pretty much a standard piece. You know, if you're going to need more than that, we can make it taller. We can try to work with the customer to make what they need, and we're enthusiasts too. We like old cars, old motorcycles, and basically the same setup. But this is the Pullmax tool. It's on center, and we line the dies up. We bring this tool up so we're in the center. You can see here we're not in the center, so there's a screw over here I'll turn. That'll move me to the center. Let's bring it up. A little more. That looks pretty well centered. A little bit hard for me to see over the yeah, there you know. Tighten everything up. We'll go over it one time the light and see where the tool's hitting in reference to our scribed line. And then we'll crank it up again. Tell by the sound sometimes when you're getting, the sound will change when you're contacting it. The fold gets contacted on both sides. You can feel it more solid sound. And then we have that in place. Now usually when you do something on a machine, you get your bend in, but often there's some type of undesirable movement in the metal also. And for us this time, it's too much crown going this way. Now we can look at our reference piece. There. Get our straight edge out and look at what we have, and it does have some crown, not a lot. We're comparing to the piece here we want to replicate, and we see that ours is far more than desirable. So we're going to go and use the stretching tool. Take take some of that out. Yeah, it doesn't take a lot of pressure to move it. A little bit too much. If I put it where it rocks, it's often where it needs to be. Strong, stretch, and what are we doing? We can compare that. And we're pretty much there. Sometimes what you can have when you put the piece in the machine is this edge here will be a little bit, you may have to make a correction on the plate on this to move that edge a little bit further in. And sometimes when you use the Pullmax, what I've done is actually welded little, I call them runoff tabs, because at the end it's always pulling where it comes the easiest. So a lot of times you'll find that the end won't be what you're looking for. Because it's easier to pull from the edge. So that looks pretty uniform. Well, we still have a little bit of a groove in this we'll take out. Well, let's get the other one to the same level. Say with the shrinker and the stretcher, there are a couple of the least expensive tools in the shop that get used pretty extensively. There's a lot of panels a guy can make for his own stuff with a shrinker and a stretcher. Maybe even just a stump and the tuck tool there. Make a tuck and stack it and shrink it. Hold this up where you can see it. And that looks like what we're going for right there. You didn't have the box and pan brake. You know, what would be a great way of doing this? Well, you could take a couple small scraps of sheet metal and have them, the bottom one, so it's a little bit longer, and this one that will just fit in. You can be able to see the edges, line it up, put a couple clamps on it, and then form it over with a hammer. If you try bending this, you get, it all depends on the radius you want. Well, here we have that put in. What we do on these parts here, if you were going to use them, we would take and put a hole here, and then put this on the inside, and then we'd use this welder right here. It's not plugged in now, but we would just go in here and step down and put a couple spot welds, and then this panel is pretty close to being done. What we need to do is deburr it, and get burrs.
And real quick, the reason why he's not putting that on this particular panel is we're not actually installing fenders or anything. So it's an added step that's not needed on this.
I'd like to see a truck, and if you're not installing fenders, it's going to be a pretty interesting truck.
Well guys, that was an excellent adventure. It was a pleasure to meet Ray down at Wheelwright Restorations. And just like I was saying, he can pretty much recreate anything you're going to need for your earlier model pickup trucks. And I gotta say, I think we're in great hands. So I actually did pick up one other thing. We have this piece that runs across right here for both sides, so we can start getting that repaired. I've also been toying with putting some air conditioning or something in here, so I don't know if we're gonna go ahead and use these hinges. I just, with how expensive a replacement windshield is, or the whole assembly is, there's some serious speculation inside my head if we're gonna go that route. But anyways, I digress. We got the piece so we can do the repair along the actual seam line right there. And being as there's not much left, I think that was a good thing to pull a trigger on. Of course, we also have these panels, and you can just see how far gone these panels were. I mean, fantastic, guys. So we'll go ahead and get this replaced, and we'll do both sides. Hopefully this coming up week. And like you can see, he made these guys right here. They go down here, and they were completely gone. So that's really good. So that's the update for the truck. Oh yeah, and I have some plans for the original oil pan for the Hemi. So if you guys kind of know what I might be doing, I might be just increasing the capacity of the oil pan. That's basically all. And oh yeah, you can't see that quite yet. Anyways, guys, if you guys are interested, I would highly recommend hitting him up for any of your parts for early model trucks. And I thought I still had my hat on for some reason. I don't know, man. It was a long trip out there. Great guy, very, very knowledgeable, and I really appreciate him sharing that with us and tips and tricks that we can work on. The same kind of stuff, just at home with smaller tools. It may take us a little bit longer, but we're not trying to mass produce them. That was a lot of fun, guys. And if you're interested in these t-shirts, you can see the sweatshirt in the back of the t-shirt looks like I still play with blocks, you know, Hemi firepower. If you're interested in those t-shirts, the link is down below. You can actually probably see a little strip of the different t-shirt designs and stuff down below. And as always, if you're digging the content, remember to hit that thumbs up. Head over to his email address will be in the link down below. I also will link his website. If you're interested in more of his stuff or seeing other things that he makes, I highly recommend checking it out. His work is fantastic, and I'm very glad I was able to use some of his equipment and get an idea how these things are made. And I'll be honest, I am really excited to see this thing starting to come to fruition. We still need a lot to get this thing where it needs to be, but this was great. Now, like I was saying, we're not going to be putting fenders on this thing. So when he was about to start putting that in there, one of the cool things is you could let him know that you don't need this if you're doing the same thing. That's going to go away. And we'll have a nice flat piece of steel. I don't have to patch the hole. I don't have to try getting it flat. It'll be perfect. Still need to do it for up here, but that's one less repair we need to do. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you have a wonderful night. And until the next time, remember, keep her shiny side up.